Tonight's story begins on a quiet road in the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire. It is April 8th, 217. The empire stretches from Britain to the deserts of Syria, ruled by a young emperor who has already made a name for himself through brutality, ambition, and spectacle. His name is Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, but most people know him by the nickname Caracalla. He is only 29 years old, yet he commands the largest empire on earth. On that spring day, Caracalla is traveling with his escort along the road between the cities of Edessa and Kerhe in what is now southern Turkey. The emperor is preparing for a military campaign against the Parthian Empire, one of Rome's most powerful rivals. The countryside around him is dry and open. Dust rises under the feet of soldiers and horses moving with the imperial party. Guards surround the emperor at a respectful distance. From the outside, it looks like the normal movement of a Roman ruler on campaign. But history often hides its most dramatic moments in very ordinary circumstances. To understand why this moment matters, we have to understand the man at the center of it. Caracalla was the son of Emperor Septimius Severus and Empress Julia Domna. When his father ruled Rome, the young Caracalla had already been raised to the rank of co-emperor while still a teenager. The idea was to create a stable succession and secure the future of the Severan dynasty. Caracalla even shared power with his younger brother Geta, at least in theory. In practice, the two brothers hated each other. Their rivalry grew so intense that after their father died in 211, the palace itself had to be divided into separate sections so that each brother could rule without encountering the other. The situation ended in a way that tells you a lot about Caracalla. In the same year, Caracalla arranged for the Praetorian Guard to murder Geta during a meeting with their mother. The killing took place in front of Julia Domna herself. Afterward, Caracalla ordered the elimination of thousands of people who were suspected of supporting his brother. From that moment on, Caracalla ruled the Roman Empire alone. His reign became known for both grand achievements and ruthless violence. One of his most famous actions was issuing a decree that granted Roman citizenship to nearly every free inhabitant of the empire. On the surface, this sounded generous and progressive. In reality, it also allowed the Roman government to expand its tax base. More citizens meant more taxpayers. Caracalla also began construction on the Baths of Caracalla in Rome, one of the largest bathing complexes ever built in the ancient world. These baths were massive public spaces where thousands of people could gather to socialize, exercise, and bathe. But alongside these projects was a darker reputation. Caracalla developed a habit of responding to criticism with extreme force. Entire cities sometimes suffered when they offended him. In Egypt, for example, he ordered the massacre of many young men in Alexandria after hearing that the population had mocked him. By the year 217, Caracalla was spending most of his time with the army. He admired soldiers and believed military strength was the foundation of Roman power. In fact, he had dramatically increased the pay of Roman legionaries in order to secure their loyalty. That decision won him support among many soldiers, but drained the imperial treasury. As the campaign against Parthia approached, Caracalla moved his headquarters to the eastern provinces. In the spring of that year, he was stationed at Edessa, preparing to march further east. Among the men serving near him was Marcus Opellius Macrinus. Macrinus was not a senator and did not come from the traditional Roman aristocracy. Instead, he was from the equestrian class and originally came from Mauritania in North Africa, in what is now Algeria. Over the years, he had built a reputation as a skilled lawyer and administrator. Eventually, he rose through the ranks of the imperial bureaucracy and became prefect of the Praetorian Guard. That position was extremely powerful. The Praetorian Guard served as the emperor's personal bodyguards, but they were also deeply involved in Roman politics. Throughout Roman history, they had played a role in making and removing emperors. Macrinus had earned Caracalla's trust, at least for a time. But according to ancient sources, something began to change. At some point, a prophecy circulated that Macrinus would eventually become emperor and replace Caracalla. In the superstitious world of Roman politics, prophecies were taken very seriously. If Caracalla heard the prediction, Macrinus had reason to believe his life might soon be in danger. When you lived close to an emperor known for executing enemies without hesitation, That kind of rumor could be deadly. Macrinus began to consider a different option. Instead of waiting to be eliminated, he would eliminate the emperor first. The opportunity came during that journey on April 8th, 217. Caracalla left Edessa and traveled toward Carrhae to visit a temple dedicated to the moon god Sin. The temple stood near the site of an earlier Roman disaster. Decades earlier, Roman legions had been defeated there by the Parthians in one of the most humiliating battles in Roman history. The emperor traveled with a relatively small escort. At one point along the road, Caracalla asked the procession to stop. He needed a moment of privacy to relieve himself. Even emperors had ordinary human needs. As he stepped aside from the road, one of the soldiers approached him. The soldier's name was Justin Martialis. Martialis had his own reason for resentment. He had recently requested promotion to the rank of centurion, an important officer position in the Roman army. Caracalla had denied the request. Now Martialis walked toward the emperor as if approaching for routine duty. Then he drew a dagger and stabbed Caracalla. The emperor collapsed almost immediately. The attack lasted only seconds. A Scythian bodyguard accompanying the emperor reacted quickly and killed Martialis with a spear. Two officers rushed toward the fallen emperor, appearing to offer assistance. According to some accounts, they may have finished the assassination themselves to ensure the emperor would not survive. Either way, the result was the same. Caracalla, emperor of Rome, lay dead beside the road. Back in Antioch, Caracalla's mother, Julia Domna, was handling correspondence and official business while waiting for her son to return. She had no idea that the emperor had just been murdered. For several days, the empire had no ruler. The Roman army soon needed leadership, and Macrinus moved quickly. Within a few days, he secured the support of the troops and declared himself emperor on April 11th, 217. He assumed the imperial titles and powers without waiting for approval from the Senate in Rome. In practice, the Senate had little choice but to accept the new emperor. Macrinus became the first Roman emperor who came from the equestrian class rather than the senatorial aristocracy. He was also the first emperor from the region of Mauritania in North Africa. Despite the unusual circumstances of his rise, the Senate accepted him for two main reasons. First, Caracalla had been deeply unpopular among many senators. Second, the army supported Macrinus, and in the Roman world, the army's support mattered more than almost anything else. Still, Macrinus faced enormous challenges. Caracalla had left the empire in difficult financial condition after dramatically increasing military pay. Several conflicts with foreign powers were ongoing, including tensions with the Parthians and unrest in Armenia. Macrinus attempted to stabilize the situation by negotiating peace and reducing spending where possible. But the soldiers who had benefited from Caracalla's generous policies soon grew dissatisfied. At the same time, powerful members of the Severan family began plotting against him. Julia Mesa, the sister of Caracalla's mother, started spreading rumors that her grandson, Elagabalus, was actually the secret son of Caracalla. That rumor proved extremely effective. In 218, soldiers supporting Elagabalus rebelled against Macrinus. The conflict ended with Macrinus fleeing the battlefield after a major defeat. He attempted to escape but was captured and executed later that same year. His reign as emperor lasted barely more than a year. The story of Caracalla's assassination shows how fragile power could be in ancient Rome. The ruler of the most powerful empire on earth was killed in a moment that lasted only seconds. One soldier with a dagger changed the course of imperial history. And it raises an interesting thought when we look back across the centuries. If that brief moment on the roadside had unfolded just slightly differently, how different might the history of the Roman Empire have been?